Landscapes. Okay, so last lesson before Easter break. I'll be messaging people. I'll put messages in the WhatsApp group about any missing assignments and anything else like that. Okay, your quiz on geomorphology should be completed, and those assignments should be close to being finished as well. Okay, so any questions about those, you can get me through WhatsApp. Headings for the day: Bahamian Landscapes, Introduction. Okay, we have today's date and objective. Okay, we're going to be identify and describe various Bahamian landscapes. All right, so you can pause that there to get your headings down, and I'm going to make a start. Right, so there's four main types of geological landscapes found in the Bahamas. A little bit of hangman there, see if you can figure out any of them. They all end in the word lands. All right, so very, very simple. We have ridgelands, rocklands, coastland, and wetlands. Okay, now obviously we've done a lot about geology already, so the rocklands should be fairly straightforward. All right, our wetlands, Bahamas is famous for its wetlands between its coral reefs and its mangroves, so we'll be looking at different examples of those later on in the topic. Coastland is where the land meets the sea. Okay, so we'll look at coasts probably last, but obviously being an archipelago and a collection of islands, the coastland makes up a large amount of area in the Bahamas. All right, the ridgelands, then we'll probably start off with that, and we've talked about this a couple of times. Like along the north side of New Providence, there's an area of ridgeland, which is again an area of highland. So we're going to start out by just kind of describing these four. I'm going to show you some images, and then we're going to go into Bahamian Landscapes. Okay, the Bahamian Landscapes textbook. So I'll show you what that one looks like and do some work from that later. Again, we're going to come back to this little image here on page 7 of Bahamian Landscapes. Okay, it's talk about how all of the Bahamas essentially formed. So we're going to actually start with how everything formed, and then look at the four main types of landscape that you find in the Bahamas. Obviously there's lots of landscapes you don't find. Okay, we don't have any mountainous areas. Okay, we don't have any river landscapes, but the ones we do have are the aforementioned types. Okay, so first things first, under where you've had it up, you can make a little note. Ridgelands. Okay, these are areas of highland and quite narrow and quite long. So an example as well, just Cat Island. We should all know Cat Island holds the highest point in the Bahamas, and again, it's not a mountain, but it's a ridge, and the highest point of that is just over 200 feet. All right, so ridgelands, areas of highland, can be quite narrow and usually quite long. Okay, they also tend to be, not all of them, but a lot of them tend to be close to the ocean as well. So what we would have first is, if we got the ocean here, this is our coast here where the land meets the sea, then the land slopes up into our ridge. Okay, next of all, probably the most common one is our rocklands. So these are gently sloping platforms. Okay, so they're usually relatively flat, of exposed rock, which are usually flat. Okay, blue holes are commonly found here. Now, Long Island, New Providence, that's two good examples. Okay, this picture obviously shows kind of a thinned out blackland coppice or pine woodland, okay, with a lot of vegetation. Our rocklands in the Bahamas, the flatter they are, the more vegetation they tend to have. Okay, so we'll be looking at a couple of those from around New Providence also. Anybody who's been on GGYA, all right, you've walked through a lot of the rocklands and quite close to some of the blue holes in New Providence. Okay, again, you will see quite flat. All right, quite common are blue holes. Again, we'll explore that at a later date. You can see the layer of rock coming around here. That's our rockland, exposed rock, that then has thick vegetation growing over it. Okay, because the type of rock the Bahamas is made from, limestone, it holds a lot of moisture and water, so vegetation can grow if left to its own nature. Sorry, let me fix this. That should only appear. Insert an animation. Done. Okay, So what we're looking at now is Bahamian Landscapes wetlands. Okay, so the next one here, areas covered with water for at least part of the year. Okay, high levels of water loving vegetation. So these wetlands are areas covered with water for part of the year. They're not submerged or underwater all year round. All right. And again, we have a lot of these areas in especially Andros and Abaco. All right. Grand Bahama also experiences quite a bit of this, if you want to add that. Example. So these landscapes range from, now there's a high range in these. Our rocklands and our ridgelands, that's pretty much all there is. Okay. With our wetlands then, these landscapes range from lagoons to salt flats and lakes, and they have a wide variety of features. Okay, so you could even include creeks, all right, and stuff like that. So you can make a note of all of this here as well in your notes. All right, so we'll look at all those different things: salt flats, lagoons, and so on. Again, with our wetlands, high levels of water loving vegetation. This is where our mangroves come in. Okay, I think these look like red mangroves. Okay, there's obviously a variety of different types of mangroves we'll look at a later date, but these are found in our wetlands. Okay, they need to be submerged, or they need their roots underwater to grow. All right, and these are very, very important to the Bahamas. They offer huge protection during storms. Okay, they offer a huge amount of biodiversity and habitats to different wildlife and so on. They also help to purify water at certain times of year. Again, wetlands, you don't need to add to this, but we got our salt flats down in Agua. All right, and our wetlands also in New Providence, we got Lake Cunningham, Lake Killarney. They'd also class as our wetlands. All right. Last one then, coastal land. Area where the land meets the sea. Landscape will vary depending on the geology making up the area. All right. So again, all of these things are linked. So we're going back to our geology a little bit here, and then you've got the forces of the ocean. All right, which will weather or erode the slopes away, which we've already talked about. Right, these landscapes range from sand dunes to beaches to sand spits, depending on the material found along the coast. Alright, so it depends on what the coast is made from. Now, this is not a picture from the Bahamas. Alright, these are cliffs off, I think, the coast of Portugal. So you can see the huge big drop. We got this very flat sandy beach, and then we got these bits sticking out in the sea. Okay, we don't have things like that here because of the geology. Again, this is in England, off the English coast. Okay, you can see some big cliffs in the distance. Alright, then when we get down here, there's a different type of geology just here as there is here. This is very much so chalk, whereas this one here is a softer material, and it's been eroded away from the ocean, or by the ocean. So the coast has a lot of different features. This is a more common, I think this might be Gold Rock Bay up in Grand Bahama, a more common Bahamian coastline. Okay, because our oceans are, if we look at here, how abrasive and how destructive these waves are, this is more of a destructive coastline. Okay, whereas we have the calm oceans, it's a lot more about deposition and dropping sediments and letting them sit. Alright, and that's why we build up from our limestone. Limestone is made from all those sediments layering up, and we have these calmer oceans. Alright, now finish with the PowerPoint. So if you want, you can go back through some of these pictures and notes and add them at your own leisure. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to how did it all form. Alright, so we're going to look at Bahamian Landscapes textbook. Okay, it's I don't know if you can see, it's this one here. Alright, I'll do it like that. Bahamian Landscapes, and we're going to start looking at page 7 to 9, and then a couple of pages later on in the book as well. You'll need a pen and a highlighter. Okay, and I'm just going to make a second little video then about that content. All right, so that is your introduction to the landscapes, but how do they all form is the next adventure.